All right, today I'm going to finish up this little fairy house that is made from polymer clay and stone and some glues. And so I thought I would take you along. I use a little form inside like this. It's wood, and I use that to help it to hold its shape while I add the decorations onto the clay before it is baked. This is polymer clay, so it's safe to use outside, and I also treat the clay with the water-based polyurethane, which helps to keep the colors nice and clear and bright for a bit longer. And whenever I send them out to their new homes, I send care instructions. So that's kind of what the deal is there with the protections and stuff that it needs. I put my pieces, if I do fairy homes that are made of polymer clay, I put them on a stone base. Sometimes the stone is removable, and sometimes they are glued on with epoxy, two-part epoxy. And so this one will be glued on with two-part epoxy. I think I found a stone too. We should look at that and see if I got the right size. I just went for a little walk down to the creek and took some pictures. And we're supposed to get another storm in tonight or tomorrow. And I am just so happy that everything looks so green. It's beautiful. I can't wait to have a green and flowery spring. Last year we had an amazing spring, and it was just breathtaking. And we had so many years of drought that really the weeds were not too bad either. This year, I think that's going to be different. The weeds are going to be back. I've been pulling weeds already in the gardens, trying to get ahead, before everything takes off and they grow roots that are 9 feet long. So I use an X-Acto blade for trimming. I use toothpicks. I have a blade too, although I have no idea where that blade is. So you'll see me just using a kitchen knife. Just obviously use care and caution while you... Uh-oh, did I do that right? Yes, I did. Almost forgot my design there. So I have clays that I have pre-mixed into this sort of wood pattern. It was a more distinct wood pattern, and you can actually make it more like wood grain, but I like it kind of modeled like this, and then I add a frame around that. So I'm going to see how tall this little door needs to be. It's not a bad height. So I kind of get the door shape basically where I want it. And then I get the size right. That's still a little too big. And then I will go ahead and shape it the way that this door frame needs to be. That's not too bad. This one has a shaped door with a narrow top, kind of an arched door, I suppose. I sometimes use square doors, but honestly, if I could, even on my house, my stables, the shop doors, I mean, I would have unique shapes to all of my doors. I find a rectangle kind of boring, but that's just me. If you are a-okay with rectangles, go for it. Now, while this clay is not yet baked, you can apply pieces to it without glue. This is bakeable polymer clay. Don't use the ones that say that they are like something to add shine or something. Those will not help you to make your pieces stick. But my point is you don't need to use it on the clay while it's still soft, but I do, because I don't want anything lifting or sort of getting something under it, because these pieces are going to be outside and I don't want them to deteriorate in any way. All right, now it's getting the shape I want. So I am gonna, hopefully this is all showing. I didn't check inside. I'm in a different position here. I kind of had to be in a cleaner spot. Now, what I do, if the piece has the specifically set wood grain made in the clay, which maybe I'll do another video about, a different video of how to make wood grain polymer clay. But this one is just sort of has the colors for wood grain. And so what I do is I then use a toothpick, if this is the shape I want, which I think it is. What you do next, I better cut that down a little bit. All right. Now that we're cut down, I think that's right. You can take a toothpick and add your sort of wood grain to it. And that is a great way of bringing the pattern of wood to your little door. All right, we are ready to set that on there. And then we have, for this front piece, I use a basic brown, and then on the back window, I use the kind of wood grain clay again, and I just roll that into little snakes and place that around. So let's go ahead and do that. Just roll it out. Make it nice and even all the way through. And make sure your clay is soft. I conditioned all my clay before starting the camera here so that you wouldn't have to wait for me to roll clay out or soften it up. But if your clay is not soft, if it's sat around for a while, just roll it on a countertop or something that is stable, and use your hands, roll with it, and it'll soften right up. All right, now we need a little door handle. And again, you do not have to use this bakeable clay or the Sculpey type of glue, but I do. It's just my personal preference. I don't like things moving around on me. I don't want things to shift. And so I just go ahead and put it on there. Now this door is so small, I don't give it hinges. But if you want hinges, go for it. Go ahead and put that little doorknob on. And then we are going to do the window frames. Now, think about your window frames, because I like to have kind of longer tops here and longer bottoms. So that means we need to actually frame the sides first so that you can easily put the top and bottom pieces on. So again, use your bits of glue. And this is some old tired glue, but it doesn't matter. I'm just adding it there just for extra protection. Doesn't particularly want to come out. You'll see me scrape things down, especially with glues. I like to have a toothpick handy, my #1 tool. And don't use a stick or anything with polymer clay. Use a toothpick because they're clean. You'll end up with wacky colors if you grab just a stick or twig, something from your woodworking process. That does not work. Trust me. Ask me how I know. I've screwed up clay with ink and dye and stain and varnish, and oh my goodness. But I will say that the water-based polyurethane really does a good job, in my opinion. A lot of people say, you know, they have difficulty with it, but I have one particular piece that is so funny. I take my pieces down to the creek often because either there's water running like there is now, or it just stays green there a bit longer. So I had some pieces that I was taking down, and sometimes I can forget about a piece, especially if I have a bunch and I am trying to take a bunch of pictures. I will forget something somewhere, a fairy or a door. I can't tell you how many people must have one of my pieces because I can lose them. But what's funny is there was a house like this one, and I left it out in the elements. Oh my goodness, I had not gone back to that area for like a year, the particular spot where I was taking pictures, and it was just fine. Snow, summer, the cows, everything, no problem. So here you can see when I add the small pieces first, it allows me a little bit of playroom with these bottom pieces so I can kind of make them squiggle. I like that. It adds a little character. So if you want to do that, be sure to use your side pieces first. And so yes, the house was fine, no problem. I was so happy to have found it again, and yeah, it was perfect. No issues whatsoever. Now my little snake is getting thin here, so I am gonna roll out another snake and make sure that I have the same thickness there. I hope this isn't shaking the camera. This is a small table I'm working on. But I didn't want to go up to the stables. I wanted to have a place where I could kind of sit and do this type of work. Is better to do, for me at least, while sitting. So there is my top piece there. Now it looks like this bottom piece could possibly run into my door. So let's see, if you get a piece like that, don't mess up your base here that I have of white. Flick that out, because otherwise you'll end up getting color or fingerprints or markings on your nice white base. If you don't have a pasta roller, making this sort of design is going to be extremely hard. It can be done, and I've done it, but it's very difficult to do without a polymer clay roller or pasta machine. So that's how I get this rolled out, so that I can play with the sort of thickness and get a thin sheet rolled out, like this one is for the roof. And I've rolled this many times. There are still some little bubbles here, but I will work those out before applying the roof. This has to bake first. Oops, sorry. Before the roof goes on. So use a pasta machine. If you cannot, or you don't have one, or don't have a way to get one, you can put small little spacers on two sides and use a flat, smooth, like piece of glass or something, and make sure it's super flat, non-stick, and then you can use your little spacers with your rolling pin and roll out a very fine thickness like this. So this toothpick would be a good thickness to start with. You can go much thinner with your polymer clay, but that way you get it completely even by using the spacers on each side. So let's see, how would you make a toothpick several inches long? I'm not sure. You'd have to find maybe a piece of wire that's this size and put out flat pieces of wire and then roll your rolling pin over that wire. Maybe tape it down on the top and bottom, 2 wires, and then you could roll it out. That's the other option. I have done that before, and just getting the pasta machine was such a lifesaver. I never looked back after getting one. They are a bit pricey, honestly, to start with, but once it's done, it's done. All right, now I need to do this back piece, but I don't want to flatten my front. So I'm going to get something so that my house here doesn't become damaged on the front side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is lay down, whoops, some tiny bubble wrap and a paper towel. and that should give it the padding. I'm not gonna push super hard, remember, because I'm using the polymer glue, so I don't have to push into my piece super duper hard. And so that way I can use something like this underneath and not worry about getting the print of the paper towel coming through. Okay, so now this one actually gets this wood pattern, clay that I have already made. And so these are the pieces I just didn't use for the door. And what I do is just roll that into a snake. And then see how that makes a nice wood grain pattern. And you can just twist that a little bit and it works perfectly. Okay. Make sure your snake pieces are nice and long. And then same thing with this as the front. We go ahead and get the side pieces done first, and then the top and bottom. So, whoops, use your glue. Where is my gluey toothpick? Okay. He thinks this stuff would squish down, but no, okay. And again, as you can see, I'm not using a super big amount of this glue. It's just enough to kind of make it stick, and I don't have to panic about it. I know it's going to stick because once the heat comes in there and this is baked, I don't have to worry about it. I just love that. I don't like to second guess processes. Once I have it done, I don't want to go back and fix something because I spend a lot of time on my designs, and there's no reason to do a step twice. That's my 2 cents anyway. Okay, let's get our long, beautiful wood grain snake, which sounds like something very poisonous, a wood grain snake. It's starting to look like spring here, but still there's no snakes out, so I have such a good time being able to stomp around and I don't have to worry. But we have rattlesnakes here, and we have had some big ones lately. My goodness. And a lot of them last year, quite a few. So I'm hoping to not run into them. They are not my favorite critter, but it makes you look at the ground, that's for sure. Okay. That looks great. Oh, I hear the wind. I don't know if you can hear that either, but the next storm is coming in. Oh my goodness, look, I have a thin spot. Okay. Well, you gotta re-roll your snake then. Not what I really wanted to do, but okay. All right. And with this polymer clay, you can do so much just with your fingers. So keep that in mind. It's a very pricey thing to kind of get into because the clay can be expensive, especially if you use a large amount. And the pasta machine, like I said, can be a bit pricey, but you don't need a whole lot of tools. Like you can use kitchen tools or a knife or stuff you have around or little ceramics tools or dental tools. It's a pretty fun way to get into creating your own fairy miniatures, but it does take some investment. All right, that looks decent. There, I am happy with that. And now the front is ready, and we are going to do the green around the base. Okay. I wish that this glue would dribble a little bit. I'm gonna stick that somewhere where hopefully it can flow. There we are. Well, maybe there. Okay, so now we are moving on to the green snake. Now, when I do the green, that is going to be grass. And so I actually put on a thicker green snake all the way around the base of the house. And then I add some little pink flowers. But here's the thing, is that this house is later going to go, whoops, we forgot to check the stone. It's going to go on a stone. Let's see. I have it over here. I picked up this one. Let's see if that one will work. Oh, yes. Look at that. Well, maybe. That's not bad. Yeah. So that probably will be its stone. So it's going to sit on that stone, which I haven't cleaned yet, so hopefully I didn't goof it up. And it's going to go on with a 2-part epoxy all the way around and be permanently adhered to that stone. So here's the deal, is if that epoxy shows on the connection to the stone, once it's attached, I will go ahead and again go around with little bits of the green polymer clay and a toothpick and add more grass, you know, fake grass. Okay. And if you don't know, if you haven't worked with polymer clay before, you can bake it more than once. So I am baking this to get the whole base part set up, and then I will switch pieces here out of my center structure. I'm going to pull this wood piece out, and then I will put in the roof piece, and that is actually going to give a structure for the roof. This is my roof color, and the roof will go on, and then I will also add more vines and flowers around the house. So that is the deal there. You can bake polymer clay numerous times, but it will never re-soften again. So that's something to keep in mind. You can't like make it more cold or more watery or anything. Once it's baked, it's completely firm and it will never soften again. So you can bake it more, but you can't sort of unbake it. Okay. Now, I need my gluey glue. Hey, we actually got some out this time. Perfect. So now, place this. Oops, now I got almost too much. Okay, all the way around my base here. And then we will put the green and then the little pink flowers. And then the green also is used for the vines, and then I have little purple flowers on the vines that go around the house and the roof. You'll see when it's all finished. All right. Here we are. Got a lot more glue now. All right, now we're good. Now we are going to place our green all the way around, just around the bottom here. And then you will see I will smoosh that into little grassy spots. My goodness, the wind is really picking up. I have to move my truck down. Uh-oh. If I lost a spot. Now here, I'm not worried about adding another little piece there where that broke, because the grass sort of texture, it's not going to matter to have a little broken spot there. You'll see. Oh, wow. The wind. Goodness. So yeah, if I leave my vehicle up here, I will be stuck. We have clay soil, so it looks very stable, and it is very not. You will sink many, many feet with your vehicle down into the clay. So now, if it's going to rain, we have to move everything down so that we can get out All right, that is nice and solid. I'm going to get a clean toothpick. Goodness, I've glued them all up without even noticing. Okay. Now, I find it pretty simple to use just little toothpicks for things like this, but you can use Sculpey tools or ceramic tools or whatever suits your fancy. Sometimes I do find for smoothing when I'm sculpting faces and things, I definitely like to have ceramic tools that are specific to what I'm trying to do so that I can get very fine details and lots of smoothing and different sort of depths to my clay features. But if I'm just doing grass, a toothpick is totally doable. So this is a very simple design, takes a lot of time, but it is an easy design to do. So feel free to try something like this because it's very fun and it's simple, but it will take you a lot of time. So don't get like frustrated with it. Okay. See, now as I push this in, this is bunching up. So if you find that that happens to you, that's probably why that piece broke off. We'll just take that off and re-stick. It's not permanent until you bake it. And I have a polymer clay oven here, but you can bake polymer clay in your regular oven. Some people are afraid of the polymer fumes or whatever, so if that's you, just put some tin foil over it and make sure that it's sort of contained in there. But I have not had any trouble with baking it in our eating oven before, but I do specifically have a polymer clay oven for my pieces that I prefer to use that, but you don't have to. You can bake polymer clay right in your food oven. No trouble there. But like I said, some people are very picky, not picky, but, careful about what they're putting their food into. And I think that's smart. I don't think that that's a bad thing. So just use your discretion and what works best for you and your family. Your family has to be all right with that too, I suppose. Okay, we are almost all the way around. And you will see this looks very grassy. And like I mentioned in my other video, you can put polymer clay on your wood pieces and bake them as well before you varnish them, that is. But I must say polymer clay with polymer clay looks great. Polymer clay on wood looks not so good for me. There, you can see how that looks very grassy now, all the way around. But you can also see a few places where, oh dear, maybe that might look bad once I get it glued on. So usually I do have to add a bit once it is attached to the stone. Okay, now we're gonna do our little pink flowers, and then this will be ready for the first bake. So little pink flowers for you and me. Get a little John Cougar in there, and all you do is just roll little balls. Some of these balls already are too big, because look at the context for the size of the house. You have to have really tiny little flowers that are gonna go around and be in the grass for this very little, it's almost a pixie house, I would say. So remember to keep the size in mind. Oh my goodness, I think my husband's home. I hear a car. All right, I am going to apply these quickly before he rolls up. And then I will bake this and come back to you. So just put on your pieces. Yep, he is here. Put on your pieces like this. I'm just going to show you a few. And then I'll be back once this is baked. Just put a little bit of texture on there so you can see that it's a flower. Just like that. And I'm going to do those all the way around, and I will bake this, and I'll be back. Okay, we are back. And this little guy is out of the oven. And now we are ready to do the roof. I use two different inserts. This one is slightly smaller than the other so that it slips easily in and out. And then when it's time to remove this, I can just put a drill screw through there partially and then just pull it out. So that is what the plan is there. I have to make sure that it slides smoothly out, which it doesn't at this moment. So you can sand Sculpey. Try to move my other pieces so that your inserts move freely in and out. Make sure you have the exact size that you need for each step of the process so that you can form this without it cracking or without your piece completely falling apart. I hope this lighting is okay. I had to put the lights on. The storm really moved in. Like, my husband came in and he brought the storm with him. So it's already very dark and cloudy. And so I had to put on my little lights here. We don't have standard electricity, but use solar. So I am using my nifty little battery pack here to run all of this setup. I hope the lighting works okay. Yes, this comes out quite nice now. Okay, and also this is very fine through here, and it gets a lot stronger once the roof is on. But if you ever needed to add more, sorry, I dropped my sandpaper. If you ever need to add more strength to your piece, once you get the roof on, you can roll up some little snakes and put them on the corners, and that really helps the entire piece to have more structure to it. I always tell people that these are almost like little teacups. They are small and fragile. They're like glass. They can break, but they are strong as far as standing up to the elements. But that's why I set mine onto a stone, because you don't want them to topple or get blown by the wind or anything like that. I am going to get a little paper towel and clean that up real quick. Okay, we don't want those little bits of polymer clay floating around. All right. Water, by the way, also does not stick to polymer clay like at all. So if you have any section you need to clean up, a little bit of water helps to kind of smooth it out, but it doesn't really lift the polymer. It's kind of two different substances. Okay. We are going to put, oops, wrong way. Oh my goodness, now you don't want to go. Come on, buddy. Just did it. That's why I say these are so important too. There we are. Okay. That's going to work? Yes. All right. Now, once we do the roof, we will be set to decorate the top, and then it will be all finished. So we are going to add the roof by putting our glue all the way around this edge. And I use a decent amount of glue. Uh-oh, I don't have my filler in here. That's what really helps too, is you can do your gluing if you want first before putting your insert in, but you have to have some wax paper or parchment paper in between the house and your wood piece, because in case any of this glue falls down, you don't want it to stick to the wood and actually bond to it. So it's nice to have a bit of parchment paper in between, just like I had on the first firing, because you don't want the clay to stick to the wood, which can happen. All right, now we've got plenty of glue in here. All right. And you can add more from the inside if you need to. You can always take your form out and add more glue if you find that it's necessary. I mean, you don't want glue dripping everywhere and having everything stuck together either, but something kind of in between the two. Now, once this is fired, you cannot, like I said before, you don't have to use the glue because I was using raw clay. Now that this is fired, you must use glue. The roof would not stick to the body at all without the glue. So be generous because this is what's holding your roof on. Okay. Let me get a new container of glue out here. If I can find it. I bought a new one somewhere. I don't know where I put it. I was just trying to avoid digging more out of this one. All right. Well, too bad. Dig we shall. Okay. All right. There we have it. Try to get some more of this to kind of fall down. If you put it upside down, it will go. It's just kind of slow. Okay. The roof. This side is a bit cleaner. There's going to be little pieces of dust or dirt or whatever in your polymer clay if you're like me and you have, I really need my blade and I don't have it. Maybe this would work. Because, okay, I always have sawdust or other things floating around. I know that many people that work with polymer clay have an extremely clean area in which to work, and that would be optimal. Doesn't work for me, ever. But if possible, use a super clean area and you will have far less stuff in there. I just sand everything smooth and polish it up with the polyurethane coating. Is that about the right width? It's a little too wide. Okay. And you can see where I had the house format because of the glue that's there. See? So now I know where to cut because I can see the pattern here on the clay itself. Oops. All right. Now that does not look thick enough to me, so I'm going to go ahead and roll out some white clay and then add that to this. Okay, so this white piece is going to sandwich between a couple of pieces of the yellow that I'm going to use for the roof. So we're just going to go ahead and use the glue that was already there. Cut this away. And then we're going to add yellow also to the bottom, but very, very thin. So what I'll do is take these other pieces that I've already cut from this yellow here. And I'm just gonna roll those up. I'm just gonna roll it out very, very thin. So it needs to be like the width that I want it to be, because it's gonna roll super tiny on my pasta machine here. And you don't need it to be everywhere, but the edges. And that's because you want to give the roof some stability, and you don't want the white to show under the eaves of the roof. So all we're really going to worry about are these edges here. So I'm just going to put that there. I'm going to cut this off and put another strip over here, and then we can add a bit onto the short sides with whatever little pieces we have left over. And that way you don't see this white sandwiched through. Okay. So what we do is get that all in there and smooth that perfectly down. This lighting seems to be doing pretty good, and my battery is doing awesome. I love this new battery we got. Sometimes with solar, especially on days like this where it's cloudy, you know, you just end up running the generator. But I've been very, very happy with this battery system that I have set up right now. And I haven't really ever run it out, knock wood. But hopefully the lighting's okay for the video. I have not used it for that before. And I'm so sorry, last week too, I forgot to, there was a part that I was going to edit out where I had went to turn something off and I forgot to take it out. I mean, you watch a video several times, but I was trying to get it out. I try to put them out every Friday, and oh my goodness, I made a big whoopsie. Okay. Oops, we need some on the short sides. Okay. So see, I forgot those. So I'm just gonna roll out some really, oopsie, small little short sides here. Add so that that does not show. Ta-da. This is just the bottom side of the roof on the eave. So it doesn't have to be super smooth or anything like that. Roll it a bit like this. And that should make it work. Okay. If you find, see, like right here, there's a little bit of white showing through. You can just take tiny little strips and see if you can work that in. It's going to stretch, and sort of the warmer and more you work with your polymer clay, the almost more liquidy it becomes, and it will form to the piece around it in an easier way. Now, if it gets not flat enough, you can kind of hit it like this with another flat tool, or like this has a lumpy bump. I don't want that to show on the rooftop, so we can do that. Okay. It has a few little, just want to see if this actually works size-wise. Oh, yes, that's it. Oh, I missed a whole section there. Look at that. Okay, we're going to have to add more glue. But everything really attached pretty well. Uh-oh, my fire is dying. I will have to go put another log on the fire. I'm going to go tend the fire. I will be right back. Okay, the wood stove might start to tick over there. It's warming up really good. Oh, and our Christmas lights just came on. Yes, it is past Valentine's Day, but our Christmas lights are solar. And even on these cloudy days, they will get enough sun to run for several hours, so it's kind of cheery outside. They just came on. Oh, that's funny. They always crack me up. I know I need to put them away, but they are very helpful, actually. At night, I can go out the back door and see with my little Christmas lights. They are so cute. All right. There's a few little white spots here and there. Now, I may be able to touch that up with actually some acrylic paint rather than playing with this, because I am pretty happy with the smoothness here. I filled a little spot right there. If you have difficulty smoothing your polymer clay edges like this, one of these rubber tools that is specifically for Sculpey is very helpful. They are kind of soft. They're like your finger, but they, I don't know, they're able to smooth really nicely. Did you see that? How that was able to get in there? So if I have anywhere that comes out where the color is wrong, but the structure is correct, I'm just going to touch that up with some acrylic paint prior to sealing it. All right. Now, move all of our pieces out of the way, and hopefully some more of this glue has oozed out. Yes, it has. Yippee. So we are going to put a little more around this rooftop, just to be sure. And then we are going to put I'll show you how I put the wax paper inset into the inside of the house prior to setting the form in, and that way your glue and your clay does not stick to the wood form and you don't have a big mess there. It's also helpful to remove your form while the piece is still a little warm, and in that way it gives you a little bit of play when it's coming out. We're going to do a new one. You can watch me make the form. So, wrap it around. It's really not a big deal. This thing is just being a butt. And that's kind of it. So we're just going to do this. Place it in there, goodness sakes. And then we'll trim off the excess. Now, was that hard? Goodness sakes, the other one was giving me such a time. I don't mind if this kind of sticks up into the other, because it'll just help the this piece to slide out. There we are. Okay. Now, finally, 6. We are ready for the roof. I want to go this way. Now, what you have to do is make sure that it's balanced with the same sort of width for the eave all the way around, because you don't want to have a big wide eave in the front and then a small one in back. That looks pretty even. And then we are just going to smooth this all on. And that is going to create our little pixie roof. Just like that. Smooth out anything that got wonky during your application. It does look a little bit longer on this side than on this side. I think it looks balanced though. So I'm just going to leave it. I don't mind a little wonkiness in the things I make. I find that gives them a bit of charm. But if you are super picky, you know, get out your ruler, have a blast, make sure everything is done like, you know, Architectural Digest, if that's your cup of tea. It's not mine, so I'm all right with it being a little wibbly wobbly. I think of it like, you know, the pixies themselves would make it. If you look at birds' nests or, you know, butterfly cocoons, things like that, they are beautiful, but they are not exact. And so I like my things to look like they belong in nature. And I find that bit of wonkiness, the wonk factor sort of plays into that. So you do you. That's the way that I kind of like to have it. Now, I don't mind if there is any kind of little gap somewhere in there. I will find it when this is removed, and I will be firing it again because we have to apply all the vines on the roof, and they come up out of the flowers here around the house. So it's going to be fired again. Just make sure it's pressed on well. You've used enough of the polymer clay glue or the liquid polymer clay, and that way we're going to have it just right. Smoothing it, smoothing it, smoothing it is very helpful. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and fire this, and we'll be back to finish up the whole house. All right, here we are back with our little house, and it has a few little spots that have a tiny bit of white showing there, which I will touch up with some acrylic paint before I seal it. But I feel like a lot of this is going to get covered with the vines, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the vine application. So I will show you how I do like one small section, and then I will put this on time lapse so that you don't have to sit there and watch step by step as I do the whole thing. All right, so now that this is baked, it will need the Sculpey glue, and I like to have the vines come up from this grassy area, and then they actually spill onto the roof. So you kind of have to plan out where you want your main sort of vine branch, I guess. I don't know what else to call it other than a branch. It's not really woody, but greenery. And then the other little pieces will veer off of that. I hope you can see the sort of branching quality to this that I'm doing. And I have already made a bunch of little leaves. I will show you how I do that real quick. Also, just take a larger snake, cut off a small slice, put it into a leaf shape like this, and then I just put one line through the middle of it, like that's the main vein of the leaf. And then I just turn it like that. Now I can bend this way or this way as needed, and I will re-accentuate this center line, and I actually will be adding some smaller veins that come off the sides as well. So it looks like we are pretty ready to put this main branch on. I kind of thin this down a little bit. I already did my sort of long snakes for this process, but they're a little heavy. I like them to be kind of fine, and then I make several even smaller ones that twist like a vine would. You know, they have those little tendrils that kind of spiral off. So this one's going to go here like this, and we will cut this one off and blend that into the grass. Today is a beautiful day. It did rain last night quite a bit, and then it cleared up just wonderfully. Now we're supposed to get the next storm tonight, and then into the next couple of days. So That is great. We'll make the grass grow. Oh dear. See, that will happen. It'll kind of roll and move. I like to have my vines kind of bend and flow. Take your little tools and blend the vining parts together. And this glue that's here will just blend into the Sculpey. You don't really have to worry if your polymer glues extend a bit. It will just bake and dry clear. So this has a nice shape to it. And then I'll just show you how I do some of the smaller little twisty pieces and the leaves. So now we are ready for some leaves here. I'm going to put one here. And maybe one right at the bottom there. And like I said, once I show you a few of these, I'm just going to put it on time lapse so that you can just watch it all real quick. No reason to sit here and watch me do each and every one. And like I said, I use my tool. You could even use a toothpick for this, and I push in some other vein shapes into that leaf there. Hope that's showing clearly. And then you're ready for the next one. And I make each one kind of, here I'm going to use a toothpick. Look like it's kind of really coming off of that vine. Now I'm going to switch back to the X-Acto blade for my little sort of vein shapes. And that helps to also push the leaf into that glue. And I'll put a little veiny piece there, a little twisty. So you just get a really fine snake piece, just as tiny as you can get. And it's just going to be a little tendril going off of there, just like that. So like I said, what I'm going to do is go ahead and get all the leaves on. And I also have the little purple pieces that I use as berries that are on this vine. And I'll just put that on a super fast mode so that you can watch it more easily rather than me dragging you through the whole process. Just blend everything in and away you go.